Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, students and scholars, teachers and trainers, professors and professionals, listeners and learners, those who are listening, watching, it is really nice time, nice place, nice section. Most Honorable President Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, respected ministers and doctors, honorable advocates, advertisers, administrators and advisors, I Dr. Rakesh from USA heartily cordially welcome all of you. As you are observing, examining, testing these days, in the natural changes, we see an oceanic change in our thoughts, ideas, because of scientific advancements in technology. But this technology works like a source or means, not the end of life. It is expressed by our holy saints. Modi likely to visit US to deepen ties. White House. President Trump, however, adds in a phone call with the PM, calling for putting America first in trade relations with major economies. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is likely to visit Washington, D.C. to meet President Donald Trump in February. The White House had said in an announcement that came hours after Mr. Trump and Mr. Modi spoke over phone on Monday. The White House called for a fair bilateral trading relationship, indicating that India will host India will host the leaders of the quadrilateral grouping in the coming months. The two leaders discussed expanding and deepening cooperation. They also discussed a range of regional issues including security in the Indo-Pacific, the Middle East and Europe. The President emphasized the importance of increasing its procurement of America-made security equipment and moving toward a fair bilateral trading relationship, the White House statement said. The leaders discussed plans for Mr. Modi to visit the White House, underscoring the strength of the friendship and strategic ties between our nations. Both leaders emphasized their commitment to advance the US-India strategic partnership and the Indo-Pacific Quad partnership, with India hosting Quad leaders for the first time later this year, the press note said. Mr. Modi on Monday said he held a telephone conversation with Mr. Trump, saying that he had agreed to work for global peace and security. Congratulated him on his historic second term. We are committed to mutually beneficial and trusted partnership, the Prime Minister said. However, President Trump added a new dimension to the relationship soon after holding the telephone call with Mr. Modi with the call for putting America first in trade relation with major economies. We are going to tariffs on outside countries, Mr. Trump told a gathering of House Republicans in Florida. Well, they mean us harm, but they basically want to make their country good. China is tremendous tariff maker, and India, Brazil, and so many other countries. We are not going to let we are not going to let that happen any longer because we are going to put America first. Mr. Trump said. The Trump administration held the Quid Foreign Ministers meeting on January 21 following the swearing-in ceremony in Washington, D.C. that was attended by External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. The leadership summit of the Quad grouping is expected in the coming months, which will be held in India this time. The Trump administration has zeroed in on immigration, HIV visas, and tariffs that are of great relevance to India's interest in its relations with Washington, D.C. Supreme Court's journey reflects evolution in rights and reach, says CJI. 75 years have transformed the top court, and yet it stands anchored in its foundational mission. He says at the ceremonial bench, transformation reflects a deeper recognition that justice must be both principled and practical. In doing so, it makes the constitutional promise of justice a living reality for millions of Indians. CJI Sanjeev Khanna, Supreme Court says. From New Delhi, the Hindu Bureau, Chief Justice of India Sanjeev Khanna, speaking at the ceremonial bench held to commemorate the closure of the Diamond Jubilee year of the Supreme Court on Friday, said the three challenges before the court are pendency, which continue to delay justice, mounting litigation cost, and the most fundamental of them all, practice of falsehood. While the court's journey reflects remarkable evolution in rights and reach, three changes demand our attention. First, the weight of arrears, which continues to delay justice. Second, mounting cost of litigation threatens true accessibility. Third, and perhaps most fundamentally, justice cannot thrive where and when falsehood is practiced. These challenges mark the next frontier in our pursuit for justice, Chief Justice Khanna said in his formal address at the head of the ceremonial bench. The bench comprised all the serving judges of the Supreme Court. It was held in the Chief Justice of India's courtroom. Senior bar leaders, including Attorney General R. Venkatramani, Solicitor General Tushar Mehta, Supreme Court Bar Association President and Senior Advocate Kapil Sibal, Senior Advocates Sri Vaidyanathan and Dushyant Devan, Supreme Court Advocates on Record Association President Advocate Vipin Nair were in attendance, among others, in the packed courtroom. 75 years have was transformed the Supreme Court, and yet it stands anchored in its foundational mission, he said. This, this transformation reflects a deeper recognition that justice must be both principled and practical. In doing so, it makes the constitutional promise of justice, social, economic, and political, a living reality for millions of Indians, Chief Justice Khanna said. Evolving role, the CGI said that two decades of the 21st century stand as a testament to the Supreme Court's evolving role in our constitutional framework. No other apex court had navigated such an expansive domain, from personal liberty to environmental issues, from intellectual property rights to privacy to the right to information. Chief Justice Khanna said the evolution began with strengthening electoral democracy by establishing voters' right to information about candidates as an extension to freedom of expression, which included the right to impart and receive information. The court dismantled gender stereotypes in employment. It recognized emerging digital rights as a new frontier of constitutional protection and struck down vague restrictions on online speech, extending constitutional safeguards to digital spaces in socio-economic justice. It broadens affirmative action to include economic criteria, regardless of society, the CGI noted. The court decisions have strengthened India's economic landscape by injecting clarity, efficiency, and fairness, be it the insolvency and bankruptcy courts, the arbitration and conciliation acts, or strengthening alternative dispute resolution mechanism, he added. With complaints of unfulfilled was piling up battles to retain tag of change agents. News from New Delhi. Last week, the Aam Aadmi Party returned to a campaign style that was synonymous with them in their initial days and propelled them to power for the first time in the 2013 Delhi Assembly election. BJP wants Kejriwal barred from campaigning following controversy over ammonia in Yamuna. Tahir Hussain gets parole to campaign for Delhi polls. ISRO ISRO set for a historic 100th launch from Shri Harikota. The GSLV F-15 mission will lift off in the early hours of Wednesday. The first launch, SLV-3E-10, had taken place in August 1979 when former President Abdul Kalam was the director of the mission. Features like a good launch, azimuth corridor near next to the equator and large uninhabited area have made Sriharikota ideal location for the spaceport. News from Bengaluru, the Indian Space Research Organization will in the early hours of Wednesday oversee the historic 100th launch from the Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota with the GSLV-15 mission. The first launch on August 10, 1979 was the experimental flight of satellite launch vehicle C, SLV-3 E10, carrying the Rohini technology payload, which was only partially successful according to the Space Agency. Former President of India APJ Abdul Kalam, who was then with the ISRO, was the director of the mission. Dr. Kalam achieved success with the SLV CE2 a year later on July 18, 1980, as the Rohini satellite RS-1 was placed in orbit. After this, the ISRO launched two more SLV missions for Augmented Satellite Launch Vehicle ASLV mission, 62 missions from its workhorse, the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle PSLV 16, Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle GSLV mission, 7 Launch Vehicle Mark 3 LMV3 missions, 3 Small Satellite Launch Vehicles SSLV missions, 1 Reusable Launch Vehicle RLV mission, 1 Test Vehicle Abort mission, and 1 PAT Abort Test PAT as part of the Gaganyaan program. The location of the space port in the east coast was decided upon by the founding members of the Indian space program due to its unique features like a good launch azimuth corridor for various missions nearness to the equator. Benefiting eastward launches and large uninhabited area for a safety zone have made Sriharikota the ideal location for the spaceport. The SDSC has stated on selecting this location. Landmark missions among its landmark missions were India's lunar missions, including the PSLV C-11 or Chandrayaan 1 in 2008, the GSLV Mk3 M1 or Chandrayaan 2 in 1999, and the LVMC M4 or Chandrayaan 3 in 2023, which made India the first country to touch down on the polar region of the moon. The PSLV C-25 or Mars or features like a good launch azimuth corridor nearness to the equator and large uninhabited area have made Sriharikota ideal location for the spaceport. The SDSC Biter mission, the PSLV C-25 or Mars orbiter mission in 2013 was another important launch as it was India's first interplanetary mission, and the PSLV C-57 or Aditya L1 in 2023 was India's first mission to study the sun. Another watershed moment was the launch of the PSLV C-37 or Cartosat 2 series in 2017. During this mission, the ISRO launched a record 104 satellites in a single flight. This was record till 2021 when it was broken by the SpaceX Falcon 9 that launched 143 satellites. It has not been all rosy for the space agency and the launch pad, as there have also been multiple failures, including the GSLV F02 or INSAT 4C in 2006, GSLV D3 or GS84 and GSLV F06 or GS85V in 2010, and the GSLV F10 or EOS0C cover GBS cases under state health scheme for wishes from Mumbai. UP CM hits out at Akhilesh over Mahakumbh dip. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath on Tuesday hit out at SP President Akhilesh Yadav saying that even those infamous for their politics of appeasement are now taking a dip at the Triveni Sangam in Mahakumbh. He added that to expect those who have never respected the faith of India will respect the faith in Sanatan Dharma will be a mistake. I am pleased that those who once disrespected India's faith and were infamous for their appeasement politics are now eager to take a dip at the holy Sangam of the Ganga, Yamuna and mythical Saraswati to take punya or virtue, said Mr. Adityanath. Without naming Mr. Yadav, Karti Sheikh's quashing of CBI FIR in graft case in HC plea replace regulars table salt with lower sodium salt substitutes that contain potassium, WHO says. From Chennai, the World Health Organization WHO released a set of guidelines on Sunday. Than 2 gram a day, it has proposed a set of guidelines to replace regular table salt with low sodium salt substitutes that contain potassium. This recommendation is for adults, not pregnant women or children, and excluding individuals with kidney impairments or with other circumstances or conditions that might compromise potassium excretion. The emphasis on salt with so many recommendations on how much to consume and its constitution is based off the huge impact it has on human physiology. Sodium contained in salt and water travel together in the human body, explains Priya Chokligam founder, Cardiac Wellness Institute, Chennai. Salt forces the body to retain water. So, eating too much salt blood pressure, reducing salt consumption, therefore reduces the load on the system by significantly decreasing the volume in the blood, thus impacting directly positively on blood pressure. This will have an ameliorative effect on globally each year 8 million deaths are associated with poor diets, and of these 1.9 million are attributable to high sodium intake. There is enough evidence to stringently endorse inducing salt as an effective way to reduce non-communicable diseases (NCDs) such as cardiovascular disease and chronic kidney disease by lowering blood pressure. It also lowers it also lowers the risk of other conditions associated with high sodium intake such as gastric cancer, the guideline says. It provides evidence-informed guidance on the use of low sodium salt substitutes in which NaCl, sodium chloride, is partially replaced with KCl, potassium chloride for household consumption of table salt, but not in packaged foods or foods consumed outside of home. The recommendations are to be employed by policymakers, program managers, health professionals, among other stakeholders to promote reduction of sodium intake. Vivekanand Jha, Executive Director, the George Institute for Global Health in India, says this guideline is very significant for India, given the propensity to add extra salt to everything. This is an appreciable effort to change behavior, he says. Instead of targeting individuals with messages about reducing salt, it makes sense to change what is available to them at a population level, in this case, how sodium salt, and make it affordable to all. Professor Jha explains. He adds that the WHO guidelines clearly keep out persons who might have to be on a low potassium diet. Regular salt may still be available for them. Dr. Priya, while endorsing efforts to reduce salt consumption, particularly given the culture in India, also flags the issue of putting people with possibly undetected kidney disease on a potassium enhanced salt alternative. अभिरामी अंध अभिरामी अंधादी. The power of Abhirami Andhadi, composed in Tamil, is reinforced by the unswearing devotion that Abhirami Bhattar had for Abhirami, the consort of America, Desh, America Deshwara, the presiding deity at Tirukayur said P. Swaminathan in discourse, like many evolved souls, Abhirami Bhattar too was in the habit of conversing with the higher powers. One day, Amavasya in the Tamil month of Thai, the rural Sheriffji arrived in Tirukatiyur after completing the Amavasya rituals at the confluence of river Kaveri and the sea at Kaveri Kumpatinam. When the king and his entours arrived, Bhattar was fully absorbed in Abhirami, and when the king asked him what day it was, he muttered full moon day. Coming out of his ecstasy later and realizing that he might have offended the king, Bhattar prayed to Abhirami saying, "My devotion to you made me forget earthly matters," and decided to end his life, leaving it to Abhirami to save his life and his name. A huge trench was dug and a fire lit. Suspended over it was a chair, tied with 100 ropes sitting on the chair. Bhattar composed the Abhirami Andhami, a collection of 100 verses, each verse using the last letter of the earlier verse. With the completion of each, he cut off one rope at a time. By the time he chopped 75th rope, Abhirami gave a darshan. Abhirami gave a darshan in all her dazzling glory, and she one of her earrings into the air. It arose, glistening in the sky, hanging like a luminescent full moon. Butler was ecstatic, and others, realizing the efficacy of Abhirami and Dadi, began to recite it, a tradition that continues to this day. Open A1 maker of Chat GPT questions jurisdiction of Indian courts in copyright case. Open A1 maker of Chat GPT questions jurisdiction of Indian courts in copyright case. News from New Delhi. Open Even Global LLC, the maker of Chat GPT, repeated an argument in the Delhi High Court on Tuesday that it cannot be sued for copyright infringement in Indian courts as its terms of use bind users to pursue either arbitration or legal action in the Court of California. The hearing came as two industry bodies, the Federation of Indian Publishers and the Digital News Publishers Association, intervened in the case filed by the new agency Asian News International. OpenAI's terms of use are under the exclusive jurisdiction of courts in California and governed by California law. Senior advocate Amit Sibal, representing OpenAI, said in his arguments. Justice Amit Bansal, who was hearing the case, indicated that the court would consider the jurisdiction question with the other facets of the case holistically, allowing the hearing to proceed. The court issued notice to OpenAI on the TNPA and the FIPA interventions with the reply expected within 2 weeks, at which point it will be decided if this will be admitted in the case. The court had earlier appointed two friends of the court, Arul George Scaria, a professor at the National Law School of India University in Bengaluru, and Adarsh Ramanujan, an advocate working in Delhi and Chennai. Dr. Scaria and Mr. Ramanujan have been asked to help the court with outlining the broad legal questions at play in the case. The litigation holds the potential to shape the future of even research, development, and deployment in India, with implications that could resonate for years to come. Dr. Scaria said in a statement released by the NSL, SIU, ANI, along with the intervening associations, has accused the ChatGPT developer of unlawfully using their publicly available content to train its A1 models and has asserted that this constitutes copyright infringement. Sri Lankan Navy fires at Indian boat, two injured. Shimoga blast probe back to square one. Rohingya Bangladeshis nationals detained in crackdown in Jaipur. Court warrant against Sanjeev Mukhya in Bihar paper leak case. Court warrant against Sanjeev Mukhya in Bihar paper leak case. From Patna, the Patna Civil Court has issued an arrest warrant against Sanjeev Mukhya, who is believed to be the mastermind in the National Eligibility Command Test undergraduate 2024 question paper theft case. The exam was held on May 5, 2024. The Central Bureau of Investigation (CBI), which is investigating the case, has arrested 45 accused so far and have filed 5 charge sheets. The civil court issued the arrest warrant on Monday evening. After the arrest warrant, the economic offences unit of Bihar has intensified the raids to catch Mukhya. Initially, when the EOU was investigating the case, before the CBI took over, one of the senior officials of the EOU had told the Hindu that Mukhya first received the NET question papers and answers sheets from an unknown professor on his mobile for the past 20 years. Mukhia, a resident of Nagar Nosha village in Nalanda district of Bihar, had been involved in paper leaks. His son Shiv Kumar, a doctor, is currently in jail in another case of paper leak. Mukhia was arrested for leaking the paper of the constable recruitment exam conducted by Bihar Public Service Commission in 2016. Kolkata police arrest 5 men from UP with illegal firearms. Ex-transport constable accused of amassing assets worth crores hands. 7 dead, 16 injured after makeshift stage collapses at a religious event in UP. Stalin says only DMK persisting in fight to ensure social justice. Out on bail, Asharam arrived in Ahmedabad for medical treatment. Press Trust of India from Ahmedabad, self-styled godman Asharam, who has been granted bail by the Supreme Court as well as Rajasthan High Court in two separate rape cases, on Tuesday arrived in Ahmedabad for his medical treatment. A spokesperson of his ashram said, in view of the directives of the apex court as well as the High Court, Asharam will not meet any of his powers during his bail period. His current location has also not been disclosed to anyone. The spokesperson of Asharam's Motera Ashram till March 31 in a case of rape registered by the Gujarat's police. Later, the division bench of the Rajasthan High Court granted interim bail to Asharam in the Jodhpur rape case. As per the court's decision, Asharam was released late on the night of January 14 from a private Ayurveda hospital there. His interim bail is applicable till March 31. His health concerns were cited as a primary reason for his release. Bihar Deputy CM alleges road construction scam worth 26 crore rupees against Tejasvi Yadav. Dibrugarh as Assam's second capital behind BJP's gambit for 2026 assembly election. Gurmeet Ram Rahim Singh, Gurmeet Ram Rahim walks out on 30-day parole ahead of Delhi election to stay at Sirsa Ashram. News from Gurugram by Ashok Kumar. Dera Sajashoda Chief Gurmeet Ram Rahim Singh, a rape and murder convict again walked out of Rohtak Sunaria jail in Haryana on 30-day parole. On Tuesday, temporarily released from jail for around a dozen times since he was convicted in two rape cases in 2017. Mr. Singh's release coincided with the high-stakes Delhi Assembly election scheduled on January 5. Now, first instance, since his conviction, Singh has been allowed to stay at his Dera headquarters in Sirsa this time. During the parole, unconfirmed reports said he has been accorded permission to stay put at Sirsa Ashram till February 6 and would later shift to Uttar Pradesh Ashram. Confirming his release, Dera Sachasoda spokesperson Jitendra Khurana told the Hindu that Guruji had reached the Sirsa Ashram for after his release. According to the Haryana Good Conduct Prisoners Temporary Release Act 2022, a convicted prisoner can be granted 10 weeks of parole in a calendar year on the completion of 1 year of sentence, and it can be availed in two parts. However, it's not for the first time that Mr. Singh release from jail has coincided with the election opposing his release on parole during Haryana Assembly poll last year. Anshul Chhatrapati, the son of slain journalist Ramchandra Chhatrapati, in whose murder case Ram was convicted in January 2019 had, in a letter to Chief Election Commissioner, pointed out that he had been out of jail for 255 days since 2022 and 6 out of 10 times he was released during the election. He also questions the decision to allow him to stay at Sirsa Ashram. He is still facing trial in a case pertaining to castration of disciples at Sirsa Ashram. His frequent release and the permission to stay at Sirsa Ashram would create fear in the minds of the witness, said Mr. Shamsipati. The question of hygiene. The GBS outbreak in Pune reveals the fragility of its urban system. Mining politics' strategic need for tungsten must be balanced against ecological concerns. The budget pipeline and India's foreign policy ambitions. The US is immigration blocks as a self-defeating path. Extensive reach has shown that this approach is counterproductive to innovation and job creation. India must be open to setting new paradigm. The USA's immigration blocks as a self-defeating path.